Hello, and this is a book review and some interesting ideas that I found in this book. And maybe you should talk to someone by Lori Gottlieb. I'll start with a quick review. I really like this book. There is some notes on why I liked about this book in the notes section. But overall, probably 5 stars. Kind of an interesting, not too long, straight to the point. Has some stories, but they are being told in a very interesting way, and the instructive lesson or what you can learn from those lessons are quite clear and direct. So I think I haven't wrote down everything I did, but I learned quite a lot from this book, and the way that I learned things are through experience or through stories rather than hardcore. And the episodes are quite short, which is good, and it's very clear and engaging. I did find myself not wanting to turn off the audiobook. So it's kind of very, very engaging. I definitely recommend that book. Give you a really good perspective on, what is it? It says a therapist, her therapist, and I forgot what it is. But it also gives you a perspective of how a therapist sees their patients and how they try to help, and also how the therapist went to her therapist, which is interesting to see how a therapist go to therapy and see that therapy as, which is like a little bit like as we would go to therapy, and similar kind of we can identify, in other words, we can identify with that part at least, or even with the other part about being a therapist, because sometimes you can understand your therapist and where they coming from. So I think everyone that go to therapy, or at least want to go, is kind of a very important book to listen to or read. Let's see the notes. During an emotional burst of pain, people either turning inward or outward, blaming themselves or others. So it's kind of interesting. When we have that emotional burst, some people, depends on personality. So some would blame themselves or they blame others. High functioning patient is a patient who are open, responsible, and don't call with emergencies. Apparently they have a title for that or whatever, and called high functioning patient. It was interesting. Patients like to be admired even in therapy, so they hide some of their vulnerabilities. So we like to be admired even in therapy. So that's kind of and I definitely see myself doing that as well. So we hide some of our vulnerabilities because we don't want to open, or we don't want to show our, I'm doing with hair quotes, full selves. Side note, I like the short episodes. So that's what I said in the review too. So the really short episodes, and it's kind of good because sometimes you don't have many or a long time to listen. So just a few minutes and you put it in and you really get a whole episode, instead of usually what I would do if it's a longer episode, I would just listen to a part of the episode. So that's kind of nice. Sometimes when we try to make a change, even a positive one, people that are close to us try to sabotage the change by maintaining the status quo. So sometimes people around us that really get used to that status quo are really trying to maintain that status quo, and even when we try to change something, they will try to sabotage. Therapy is not supposed to fix things. Rather, it's supposed to help you understand yourself better. I think this is a really interesting point, an important point, because some people, and I did it many times, probably still do, and really try to fix things. But what it should be is just to help you understand yourself better, and hopefully you can fix things afterwards, but it's not the whole point, or it's not the main point, I would say even. Freedom requires responsibility. I like this. It's short and right to the point. Just if you want freedom, it requires responsibility to work with that freedom and not abuse that. Projection is thinking that a person is angry when they're not. Projection identification is when we make that person angry. So there's projection, it's more known when we think the person is angry when they're not. We are the one that is angry. But projection identification is what we do is we make that person angry because we think they are, and we make them angry. So it's even more. It's like I see that as the next level. Patients often like to get an advice but then get resented or about it. So they want that advice, they seek that advice, but then get resented, or because it doesn't work, or because just they don't like that advice. So sometimes it's just better to not give that advice. Doorknob disclosures are patients that disclose things right when they about to leave. Could be because they don't want to hear your comments or they wish to stay in your head. I like this, just the analysis of the problem and just the identification of the problem in the first place. So they have like a doorknob disclosures. So I like this identification of a problem, which is those patients that disclose something right before they leave. And I like also the analysis. So what could it be? Why did they do that? So one of the ideas is that they don't want to hear your comments. They are afraid to tell that, so they're just gonna say whatever they want and leave without you having any time to respond. The other one is they wish to stay in your head. It's kind of like an insecure thing, so they wish to stay in your head. Interesting analysis. Sometimes it's hard to forgive someone, therefore compassion could be better than forgiveness. Sometimes people really trying to convince us or push us towards forgiving someone, but sometimes it's really hard to forgive someone. Therefore, compassion is a better way than forgiveness if we have a hard time forgiving. When people are really sick, they don't want to hear solutions or about other people that it happened to them. Honesty is the solution. So when people are really sick, I think it's about the cancer, I forgot her name, but a cancer patient. And many times, they don't want to hear solutions, which that's why we tend to do, is to offer solutions. Oh, you should do that, or oh, I actually know my aunt or my friend also have this problem. But no, they don't care usually. So she said that honesty is the solution. I think it's actually right. I think it's important. Sometimes patients mistake the closest of therapist as love. So it's very close or intimate, especially if it's like an hour every week or sometimes even more. And sometimes we mistake this closeness with love. If you want to mute pain or grief, you need to turn off all emotions, which include joy. You cannot mute one emotion alone. So if you want to mute pain, some people try to mute it, and so they turn off all emotions. But it turns off all emotions, you should remember that. You really turn off everything that include joy. You can just turn off one of them. It doesn't work. Displacement is what we do when we lash out, for example, on the wrong person. Oftentimes because we cannot do it on the intended person. So that's displacement. We lash out on the wrong person. We should have lashed out on our boss and we lash out our spouse, for example. Oftentimes it's because we cannot do it. We don't want to lash out at our boss because we're going to get fired, but we do it to different people. And I think that's the last one. One reason people go to therapy is to explore their own lives with another person, not by themselves. Oftentimes because they're afraid to do that. It's probably a hidden reason of why people go to therapy, but sometimes it's because they really want to explore our minds, but many people are scared to do that themselves. So it's kind of like a guided exploration in some way. I like this idea. So that's it for notes. And again, if you like this book, I really recommend, especially if you go to therapy, you want to go to therapy, or if you're a therapist. Easy book, easy and interesting, engaging, not hard, has some interesting lessons, and really hard to identify with. Really easy to identify with. So definitely recommend, 5 stars, and that's it. Thank you.